Taft, California is one of the finest sites in the world for people to practice and compete in the fun of outdoor free flight flying. It is a vast, unobstructed area with relatively windless weather conditions. Always very warm, the temperatures can reach 115 degrees in the summer. Nevertheless, when special events such as the National Free Flight Championships are held there, enthusiasts from all over the country gather to compete and kibitz, to renew old acquaintances and make new ones. But above all, they gather to share new information and knowledge concerning all aspects of free flight, a sport in which success depends on design and trim. An eighth of an inch here, a slight curve of the wing there. And, of course, success depends on finding the thermals. Taft is noted not only for its big thermals, or currents of rising air, but also for its big downers, which can make flying there very tricky. Various devices designed to help locate lift are called thermal detectors. They locate the rising air by sensing changes in temperature. Some people swear by bubbles to find thermals, and others believe in fluffies, which are released by pulling the feathery chaff from common cattails. A basic category of free flight is hand-launched glider. This is the best event in which to learn the theory of flying, because improvement depends on understanding such things as warps, tilt, wash-in, and wash-out, as well as the consequences of minute rudder and stabilizer adjustments. In the competition aspect of outdoor hand-launched gliders, 2 minutes is a maximum flight. In the end, it's best to remember that this event is a lot tougher than it looks. The indoor hand-launched glider event is much like outdoor, except for one major difference, which holds true for all indoor and outdoor categories. And that difference is that indoors there are no thermals to help maximize the flights. This is a tow line glider, which is pulled aloft on fishing line, much like a kite. These gliders can have complicated tow line release hooks to permit circle towing and zoom launches. The small pennant drags the line free from the hook on the bottom of the fuselage at the apogee of the launch. However, in order to get the plane in the best thermal and to the apogee, requires a competitor who is in good shape, because it takes a lot of running to circle tow the plane to the proper launch spot. Once the line falls away, the plane soars free. Meanwhile, on the ground, other competitors resemble characters from Lewis Carroll's endless caucus race as they scurry to and fro in search of thermals. A misstep may mean a mishap. But for those tow-line gliders which do not fall from grace, there is nothing but sunshine, an ocean of blue sky, and the whisper of the wind. In free flight flying, there are two main types of power, gas and rubber. Rubber-powered models come in a variety of categories. This father-daughter team fly what is called a coupe d'hiver. In French, coupe d'hiver means cup of winter. And this plane is so called because it was developed in France for flying during the winter months, with competition winners receiving the Cup of Winter trophy. In some rubber-powered categories, a winding tube is used to wind the rubber strand that represents the motor. If the winding tube is not used and the rubber snaps, it can easily tear off the front of the model. When all systems are go, flying rubber power can be fun, rewarding, and the first step toward the more difficult classes of free flight. An elite class of rubber-powered free-flight models is called Wakefield. The name comes from the English lord who sponsored the prestigious Wakefield Cup in the early 30s to encourage international competition. These models are powered by up to 40 grams of rubber, which is lubricated to reduce friction and increase efficiency. Quite often, the lubricating substances are closely kept secrets. The Wakefield class is the pinnacle of rubber-powered competition, and the flights of these planes are majestic to view. AMA scale and peanut scale are two more categories of rubber-powered free flight. As the word scale implies, these models are smaller versions, built to resemble full-size aircraft as closely as possible. Peanut scale differs from AMA scale in that the planes are smaller and are allowed a maximum wingspan of only 13 inches. As in all phases of free flight competition, time spent aloft is the name of the game. Since successful free flight is directly related to time spent adrift in the air, it is important for every modeler to follow the basic fundamentals of aerodynamics. Keeping the model in proper trim is the first rule. Fortunately, what looks like a mortally wounded duck can quickly be turned into a graceful swan by merely making a few adjustments in trim. In all categories of rubber scale, each aspect of aerodynamics is extremely important because the very qualities of structure and weight that make these miniatures so realistic are the same qualities that make a good flight so difficult to achieve. Sometimes it looks a lot easier than it really is. Only a handful of experts fly these ultralight rubber-powered stick models. Extremely fragile, these indoor models are built from very thin and soft balsa wood and covered with transparent microfilm. The microfilm is made by pouring a few drops of special fluid on the surface of a pan of water, then lifting it free in sheet form by means of a wire loop. Very difficult to design, construct, and to fly. These planes are not for beginners unless there is expert guidance available. One must move very slowly and methodically in the presence of these microfilm miniatures. Working on them takes the steady hands of an eye surgeon. Propeller design is crucial, for the prop must be flexible enough to control the flight as the model climbs. Then, as the plane nears the ceiling, there is less torque in the rubber motor, so the model stops climbing and cruises efficiently. Nothing is accomplished by accident or chance in the design of these mini wonders. The right rubber, the right wing airfoil, and even the flying sight conditions are all figured into the equation that can equal a flight of 30 minutes or longer. When everything is right, the modeler has created a piece of graceful slow-motion poetry. Climb on rainbow wings of iridescence, for perfect gliding movement is your essence. Climb with emerald fire in your prop, as untethered, untouched, you seek the top. Softer than milkweed on a summer breeze, I watch you court the air and coyly tease the gentle currents and eddies that flow up there, where you go sailing adrift on the air. A popular aspect of free flight is the area of gas-powered models. One of the most advanced of the gas-powered categories is called FAI Power. This facet of the hobby requires time, training, and experience. And since there are few kits, the modeler must build everything himself. One of the top flyers in this event is Tom Kerr of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who describes the basic design and functions of an FAI Powership.
The airplane is made in three sections. That is the fuselage, as you see here. The tail boom, the front end, which is your cowling included, and your engine on the half pan. The half pan also has the tank built into it in the back end. This is the fuel to supply the engine carburetor. And on this side, you will see this is the flood-off line that it shuts the engine off when the timer opens up that line. The orange line that you see here is for filling and for pressure. Now, I can fill and vent through that line using this filling system. The snorkel goes down there, and as the fuel goes in, the air can come out around the sides. This line here, coming out of the engine, is my pressure line, using crankcase pressure in a hard tank. This is placed back on, and that is the complete engine.
At one time, Tom even made his own propellers. In fact, he tried 200 different resin combinations before discovering one that was suitable. In his home workshop, Tom has the molds and the machinery to approach every aspect of building with scientific exactness.
The reason for these full-length fiberglass propellers is that the engines are turning at very, very high RPMs. We're talking in the range of over 25,000, on the average 26 and 27,000 RPM. They will not come apart. They do not tend to flex as a wooden propeller would. Wooden propellers actually come apart from high RPMs. This was a fiberglass. This is made from carbon fiber. It's black. It is much, much stronger than the fiberglass, but very brittle. These will not flex near as much even as a fiberglass. Like I say, they are brittle, so that if it hits something at any time at all, pieces would break off. But that is the only time. Now, the latest type of propeller that we're working on is a folding type, like this, that folds to that position when the engine stops. In other words, it would be like this when it's gliding. Less drag. Of course, the one you're looking at is made with the carbon fiber. This is an average FAI Power model used in free flight. The model is controlled by this timer here that has 5 functions to it. The first thing that it will do would be to flood the engine with fuel, stopping the engine from running. It also has a brake here that stops the propeller from freewheeling after the engine is stopped. As you can see now, it's very free. The next thing that will happen would be this automatic rudder here would move from the power setting for transition to a right. That will cause the airplane to go from this attitude, swing it to the right for glide. A second later, the stabilizer will go from this power position it is now to a glide position, up. Now, you didn't see much because it only moves 1/8 of an inch. And the last thing that's going to take place will be the stabilizer will come up to a 45-degree angle at the end of the flight, which is called dethermalizing. This causes the airplane to return to Earth, such as a parachute.
In FAI Power Competition, the competitor must start and regulate the engine and launch the model himself. Launching is by hand. The engine runs for up to 7 seconds, and then the timer takes over. The plane will hopefully complete a maximum flight time of 3 minutes before drifting to the ground like a parachute. The AMA gas power categories are 1/2 A, B, C, and D. These designations refer to the piston displacement of the engine, with 1/2 A being the smallest and D being the largest. The engine run time for hand launching in all of these categories can be up to 12 seconds. And these power-packed speedsters are designed to climb pretty fast and high up into the wild blue yonder in 12 seconds. As in every free flight event, launching into a rising thermal is the key to a maximum duration flight. If the modeler desires to use a VTO or vertical takeoff, his engine run time may go as high as 15 seconds. Once the engine shuts down and the plane has found its thermal, there's nothing for the modeler to do but sit back and enjoy the serene journey as his craft soars, glides, and circles smoothly like a tissue paper butterfly in a robin's egg sky. However, sometimes accidents will happen, especially if one forgets to hook up the limiter that keeps the stabilizer from falling off during dethermalization. But while it looks spectacular, there's usually no harm done. One of the more impressive sights at free flight events is the big C and D gas models. It's hard to imagine how planes of such size and weight can climb into the void of thin blue nothingness and hang suspended for as long as 7 or 8 minutes with no power, no connection, no tethers to bind them to Earth. Yet that is exactly what these big gases do, and upon seeing it, one understands a little better the magical magnetism that free flight flying holds for so many people. One of the major attractions now in vogue in Taft, California, is the unique experience of night flying. Taft is an ideal site for this because of its perfectly dead nighttime air and its wide open spaces. And so as twilight descends, lanterns and work lights wink on, and a low voltage excitement mingles with the desert's night sounds. The only special preparation that is needed is that the modeler should affix some type of identifying light to his plane. This will not only help him decipher which plane is his, but will also aid him in chasing it when his night flight touches down for a landing. One of the unique categories in the free flight hobby is gas-powered scale. Many of these planes are startlingly accurate replicas of full-size aircraft. The time and effort that goes into building a gas scale model is considerable. And these aeronautical works of art look so good that it seems to be asking too much to want them to fly as well. But of course, these models are built for competition as well as accuracy to detail, and fly they do. A free flight activity which attracts thousands of fun flyers as well as competitors is the flying of old-timers, models whose designs appeared before 1943, and antiques, or models whose designs appeared before 1939. These planes are gas-powered and must ROG or rise off ground. Antiques are limited to ignition-type engines, as in the old days, while old-timers use engines with glow plugs. The competition flying of these free flight model aircraft of vintage design has perhaps the most altruistic goals of any in sport, for it is intended that this kind of flying be casual, enjoyable, and interesting for both competitor and spectator alike. No one could ask for more than that. Seeing one of these models from bygone days skirting through blue skies, one cannot help but feel a twinge of nostalgia. But then feelings are very much a part of this hobby of free flight because it has so much to offer those who participate. There is the boundless knowledge of aeronautics to be acquired. There is the fun of choosing, designing, and building the model. There is the joy of sharing an interest with people you care about. And always, there is the competition and the challenge of accomplishing the goals one sets for oneself. Lastly, there is the thrill and the fun of watching one's own creation rise unfalteringly into the clear blue dome, flying on wing and wind, flowing past cloud and sunlight, slipping detachedly across the sky, free for the moment from gravity's bonds. Softer than milkweed on a summer breeze, I watch you court the air and coyly tease the gentle currents and eddies that flow up there where you go sailing adrift on the air.